Hey YouTube, welcome back to the Backpack Hack channel, and I want to talk to you preppers out there about what you're putting in your Faraday cages to protect your electronics from things like EMPs and CMEs. You're probably putting things like two-way radios in. If you have a solar power system, you're putting in a spare inverter, a charger, and hopefully diodes for your solar panels. You're probably putting in two-way radios and other electronics to keep them away from the damages that CMEs and EMPs will cause those electronics. But I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the electronics that you probably aren't even thinking about that are just absolutely shotgun through your house. They're just scattered all through that you're not even thinking about. And these are electronics that will probably be hit hard by an EMP because they're physically attached to your home's electrical system. Now there's a lot of things you can't do anything about. Your car, for instance, if you've got a newer car, chances are there's electronics in them. A lot of your appliances, your refrigerators, freezers, washer dryers, water heaters, furnaces, dishwashers, microwaves, those are all electronics. And I don't know too many people who have the wherewithal and the ability to build a 4-car Faraday cage to store a spare vehicle and a refrigerator and microwave and all those other things. But there are a lot of things around your house that you can prepare for, because what would happen if there was an event that took out a lot of the electrical systems in your house, and when the power comes back on, either the utility or you get a backup system like a generator or a solar power system, and then you find that you still can't use the electricity that you're getting because the electronics in your house can't get down the circuit because something has fried. I'm talking about things that are actually built into your electrical systems. And one of the most commons are these, LEDs and CFLs. These are very, very common these days, and you can just buy them to directly replace the old-fashioned Edison incandescent lamp. However, these have electronics in them, and in an EMP or CME, these are probably going to get fried. So you want to make sure that you have a good supply of good old-fashioned incandescent light bulbs sitting around. These things are pretty much impervious to those CMEs and EMPs. Even if there's not electronics in the bulb itself, you've got one where there's a ballast built into the fixture, it's probably an electronic ballast. Now, this is something that's going to be a little bit harder to replace than the ballast in this. However, you want to make sure that you have ballast for your fluorescent lights and drivers for any LED fixtures that you might have in your house. There are light fixtures that are available today that are in homes that have these drivers built into the fixture, and you are simply replacing the bulb much as the same as you would replace one like this. If nothing else, go get yourself a bunch of these. These are just a little plastic pull chain fixtures. You can get them with and without the pull chain to turn things on and off. They're a couple of bucks. You can get those and pretty much replace any light in your house with one of these fairly quickly. Another thing you probably hadn't thought about is all the wall warts you have in your house, the little power supplies that power your small electronics and even charge your phone. Speaking of phones, do you have a spare phone? Might be a good idea, especially if your phone like this one has with a SIM chip in it. If this one gets fried, I've got one on my Faraday cage, and if the grid is still up and the phone system still works, I can slide the SIM chip out, put it in my spare phone, and up and away I go. Something else you probably hadn't thought about is dimmers. A lot of dimmers in your house have electronics in them and remote control lights, switches that are installed that use radio signals. Do you have a way to override those if an EMP takes out the electronics? If not, go around your house, take stock, and just buy yourself an ordinary 50-cent toggle switch. You can buy these at hardware. You can buy these at Walmart any these days. They're very inexpensive to have, and the nice thing is they're EMP proof too. Go into your kitchen, your bathroom, your garage, your basement. Probably you're going to find a GFCI receptacle. Those are the ones that have the little push buttons on them to test, to trip, and then it has a reset button. Turns the power on and off. Those things are electronic. So you want to make sure that you have a replacement standard receptacle. These are, I don't know, 40, 45, 50 cents at the hardware store or home center. Stock up on these. So in case your power comes back on, you can at least replace those with these and get power back up and running. Something else you may not have thought about, well, you probably have thought about a flashlight. Modern flashlights, especially the LEDs today, have electronic drivers in them. It isn't that big of a deal to have a spare, but you may want to look at the old-fashioned analog flashlights. If nothing else, it'll give you light whether it's been hit with an EMP or not. Here's something else you probably hadn't thought about. AFCI and GFCI breakers. You can spot these in your electrical panel by the little push button that when you push it, it'll trip the circuit off. And these have electronics in them. And if an EMP hits, these are probably going to get fried. Now, I can't say for sure whether something like this will still provide electricity to the circuit or not, because I don't know if the electronics gets fried, whether it will still pass electricity through the circuit. It may be that the electronics fry, the circuit is still powered up. It's just you don't have the protection of the ground fault or the arc fault circuitry in there. So you might want to just go get a plain ordinary everyday circuit breaker. You can get these anywhere from $3 to $7 or $8 depending on the brand of your panel, and have some of these available. What about smoke detectors? You got electronic smoke detectors in your house. Wouldn't it be nice if those were still working after an event? So you want to make sure that you get some extra smoke detectors, have them sitting around. Have you thought about your thermostat? Guess what? It's electronic. So probably wouldn't be that bad of an idea to get yourself just a simple analog thermostat. So after an event and you can get your furnace back up and running, you don't have to rely on an electronic thermostat, which is probably going to be fried. You still have a way to adjust your thermostat this way. The reason I bring this up is just because there's so many electronics scattered through your homes that you're not really thinking about all these little things. So you might want to go through your house, take a stock of what you have. This probably isn't a comprehensive list of everything that's in your house that's going to need to be replaced if something happens. But the nice thing is, many of these things that I'm referring to as replacements, like this thermostat, the light and the switch, these breakers, this type of light fixture, and this type of flashlight, are pretty much EMP proof. There's no electronics in them. Obviously some things like this and your cell phone, your smoke detectors, and things like your flashlight, you're going to want to have those in your Faraday cages, but you can store a lot of this stuff outside your Faraday cage. These things will not be affected by EMPs and CMEs. So go through your house, take a stock, make a list, start stocking up on the things to replace these electronics. And like I say, this is not a comprehensive list. There's probably something I'm not thinking about and forgetting, but you're going to find that in your house. Make a list. Make sure that you start stocking up on light bulbs, switches, and outlets. Make sure you have plenty of extra wall warts. I found this one at a garage sale for 25 cents. It works. I've got, in fact, he had like 6 of them. I offer him $1 for all 6 of them. Got 6 of them for the $1. Those are all back in my Faraday cage, so if nothing else, I can still charge my phone off of some sort of wherever I can find power. This won't be affected. I've got circuit breakers to replace all my breakers. I've got extra smoke detectors sitting around in the Faraday cage, just to get you an idea of what you might be overlooking when it comes to preparing for a CME or an EMP. So this is Backpack Hack coming at you. Go through all your electronics, make sure you have spares, and I'll see you out there on the trail.